Warning, the following audio transmission is based on theory and is intended for entertainment purposes only. It's Doomsday and its affiliates will not be held liable for anything your dumbass does. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome everybody to It's Doomsday Podcast. Today is March 27th, 2022. Time is 4:29 in the PM, according to my computer, which my time is off on this one. But welcome in, everybody. Joining us is Michael Kee from the Real Conservative Talk Podcast, and as always, Big Daddy Prep, Al. And we're picking up Russian-Ukraine conflict history part 3. Maybe this will be the last part of this. So when we ended last week's episode, Al had a question for Michael Kee, and it was about the funding, dealing with Hunter Biden and how they're getting their money and what's really going on over there. So do we want to pick up from there where we left off last week?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, yes. A lot of that information's come out since we talked about that last week. There's been a lot more in the media about that. So, yeah, definitely. So, Michael, tell me exactly how does that funding work and how did it work?
Okay, so as far as Hunter Biden in the funding, Hunter Biden with Rosemont Seneca, by the way, started that with Christopher Hines, who is Kerry's stepson, and Devon Archer, who was one of John Kerry's senior campaign advisors in 2004 when he was running for president.
Yep, I remember that.
Yep. So that fund put money into companies like Metabiota, CH2M Hill, which I have that has a connection to the Bidens further back down the line before they were CH2M Hill, when they were just Hill International, but and Black and Veatch, and their funding went and invested in the construction and research operations in these biolabs over in Ukraine. Now, since last week, and we talked last, I have done a lot more research on some other stuff and about how these politicians make money over there in these areas. The OPIC, which is the Overseas Private Investment Corporation, was started in 1971 under Nixon, but it had evolved, and what it was for was to go and basically excel private American business, and they say it was to mobilize private equity over into these emerging markets, and the emerging markets are countries like these former Soviet states after the Soviet Union collapsed, these African countries like the Congo, Afghanistan, all these war-torn, basically shithole countries, as what some people would say, right?
Right.
With the OPIC, they offer a few different things. They do guaranteed loans and lending to these private investors that want to go over and pursue business operations. They also offer something that is called political risk insurance. This is where politicians are making the money. So what people don't realize, most insurance claims have tax advantages, right? You don't report insurance claims on your as income for the most part. Now there are times you do, but for the most part you don't. Would a life insurance company ever insure someone that is going to die in 2 days, that is already terminally ill?
I would say not.
Absolutely not. They would never take on that risk. So why do we offer political risk insurance in countries that already have fucking political risk?
Right.
Right?
I agree.
So the reason, though, is because now, and again, going back to the politicians have first dibs because they on all of these potential lucrative opportunities in these countries like Ukraine and stuff, because they went from being communist to a free market society literally overnight. And they have usually the businesses that go and get these loans and this insurance from the OPIC, which is now the DFC. It has, since 2018, it merged with two other government groups, so it is not the OPIC anymore. But it was still all the way up until 2018 and prior, and it was really at a tight, after the Soviet Union collapsed, all the way till around 2014-ish. And a lot of these businesses that go and they pursue these opportunities are well politically connected. A lot of them are the ones that are receiving government contracts. So what they're saying is, okay, you have this country like Ukraine, and we are trying to help Ukraine grow economically. So we want our private sector to go over there and start doing business. Now, this program, they say, help decrease the deficit by about $2 billion every year, which it could have because of the revenues. It also said that it didn't hurt the taxpayer. They weren't using taxpayer money because of the money that they collected. It basically washed it out, and it never had an impact on taxpayer. But it never gave Americans jobs. Okay, it never did any of that. So it didn't benefit the U.S. domestically, economically whatsoever.
Of course.
But it's just really convenient and a big coincidence, and some people don't believe in coincidences, that now you have these private businesses going over to these countries like the Congo, like Afghanistan, like Ukraine, like Georgia, and within a couple years of being there, you have conflict that arises. Ukraine,
right?
You had the 2014 Civil War that really went all the way up until now. Now you have the second invasion, but before that, you had a political proxy war between the United States and Russia in Ukraine. All of that stuff. So, like a candidate being overthrown, like a sitting president of Ukraine that's overthrown because of an insurrection or a revolt or whatever. These companies will get paid out big, up to $250 million in political risk insurance for lost revenue.
Good Lord.
It's not reported on income. Therefore, the politicians can get big chunks of that in payments, and no one ever knows. That's how you get around it. That's how they can. It's basically a way to go over there and launder this money. And that's, I 100% fully believe that is what's going on here, and that's why you have the Bidens. Because a big portion of this is not just giving out loans, but it's also supporting investment funds, which is what Rosemont Seneca was, to go over there and invest in businesses.
Right. Well, Michael, about 2 weeks ago, Biden started off with his executive orders of being able to take an executive order for one was for $200 billion, another one was for $800 million. Then, of course, with the omnibus bill, it passed. There was $14 billion there. And then the other day, I understood that.
Well, no. The omnibus bill was over $1 trillion. Only $14 billion went to Ukraine, but it was over $1 trillion in spending. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like 1.7 altogether. But the thing, it was $14 billion that was going to Ukraine. Now I understand the other day, just a couple of days ago, I hear that again, Biden has decided to executively order another $1 billion. So I would just keep wondering how much of this money that keeps going to this country is eventually going to end up in the pockets of politicians and politicians' family members and friends, and just small companies venturing that they do business with, or just somehow it ends up in their pockets. So that's my problem with a lot of the money we're sending over there. It's not so much that I want people to die or be hungry or not have the proper things to fight a war with, because I'm no lover of Russia and I'm no lover of Putin, but I just wonder how much this money is going to end up in the hands of people that it shouldn't end up with. That's
a lot of it. And
I'm glad we feel the same way about that, because that's my thing about just giving like a blank checkbook to a war. Oh, here you go. Just go ahead and we'll just keep writing checks. We got checks. We got money. Surely, that theory doesn't wash with me. So that's why I really wanted to know about the money that's supporting these biolabs. How did this happen? How these insider deals happen? Because we all know that there's certain people in Washington have their fingers in the pot, and some people don't. But it seems like the Hineses and the people that are the club, the
Mhm.
Clintons, the Hineses, the Kerrys, the Bidens, the Obamas, the club. They seem to always have money. They go into office with nothing. They come out with a whole lot. Then it seems to keep turning into billions. Oh my God, he went in. There's nothing. Now he has billions. Oh no, now he has he's got a billion now.
Mhm.
How did Joe Biden get $1 billion working for the people of America for 47 years in Congress?
Yep.
I guess he knew how to invest really well. Those savings
Yeah,
bonds,
right.
those savings bonds helped him.
Yeah, right. So
Hey preppers, do you want 10% off survival food? Go to www.readywise.com and use code DOOM10 at checkout for 10% off all your survival food needs. Again, that's code DOOM10 at checkout at readywise.com, DOOM10 for 10% off at readywise.com.
give you a list of countries that OPIC has mobilized investment funds and stuff to. Afghanistan, Democratic Republic of Congo, Georgia, Serbia, Egypt, Syria, Pakistan, and Ukraine. All of those have had a war. All of them.
Wow. Every one of them.
Every single one of them.
Yeah. But then they'll come back into America, and first thing Washington says, we have to watch out for how the people are being treated, ethnic cleansing and the wars, and the warlords are taking, but yet we're still investing in these companies. We're investing in some of the same people that are committing war crimes, that's my big get on. I don't I feel like we're supporting war criminals on both sides. And that's basically the way it breaks down to be. But I'm glad we got you here, Mike. I'm glad we got you here with all the the knowledge of these things, because I like to hear these things.
Well, I think look, what's funny is for the OPIC, the government was the Congress was the ones basically in the driver's seat for writing the checks.
Right.
All right. And they're giving the money to people that they know that lobby to them, that help get them elected. And the idea is, okay, they can go over there and let's say they have an energy, because a lot of it's energy that these companies invest in. A lot of it's whatever kind of endeavor. If it makes money, great. If not, we're going to still cause political turmoil in these countries and go ahead and get the insurance claim. What I want to know is how many of these companies are still operating after they've submitted a claim for political risk insurance when these countries have a fallout, which they always do.
Right.
And so they're going to get the insurance claim, but they're still over there making money.
It's amazing that, and I told someone the other day and they called me crazy for it. And I said, you have to go back and look at history. When an economy is bad, the best thing in the world for an economy, it might be the worst thing in the world for you, but the best thing for an economy is a war.
Yeah.
Because the war brings the economy right back out of the crap hole that it's in. And right now, what do we know? We know that our economy is in a crap hole.
Mm-hmm.
So a war kicking off definitely helps. One, the military industrial complex. We know that. And also, it helps the folks in Washington. They know exactly where to invest, where to do, what to do this. They have insider information. You and I, we pay for things at higher prices, fewer items on the shelves. I mean, Lord knows nobody in America that's a real American wants troops to do without, the military to do without. But we get into these wars that really we don't need to be in. But it's not because we're fighting anything. They try to convince people through propaganda that we need to go fight these wars.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time, what we don't tell people are, well, now we know that Saddam is bad. So bad Saddam, we need to go fix bad Saddam. But wait a minute, hold on. Saddam never had weapons of mass destruction. Hold on a minute now. Y'all sold us this bill of goods and we're, 20 years into a war here. We're just getting done with. Now we got to get into another war because the economy sucks again.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm so scared about this whole thing. And I guess as a grandfather and a father, that's why it really worries me, because I don't want to get sold a bill of goods again.
Yeah. Well, don't be surprised if it happens. I mean, you have Biden over there yesterday talking about how we are, the soldiers will see what Ukraine's like when they get there, which was a
Right.
shocking comment. And then he goes on and talks about regime changing in Russia, which is extremely dangerous. Even
Yes.
if the people don't like Putin, okay, look, how many people hate President Biden? A lot, right?
Yeah.
Over 50% of the country, I'd say.
Right.
But do you think we would stand if a country came over here and overthrew our government? Hell no.
No, not at
And it's
all.
the same for Russia.
Yeah. I told somebody the other day, I was laughing. It was a joke in the thing, but I said, I just wonder if you put on a ticket, if you put Vladimir Putin and Joe Biden on a ticket, which one get the most votes? That's what I want to know. And they was laughing. I said, I'm serious. I'm being serious with you. If you put him on a ballot, which one? I said, Putin might actually surprise you, and
Yeah.
he's the bad guy here, supposed to be the boogeyman. But it's just, that's what worries me is Americans. I don't do what I do for me, and I don't do what I do really necessarily for my wife or my kids. I do it for my grandkids because I don't want my grandkids growing up to have to fight wars. And everybody says, well, why not? I said, well, why would you do that? Your grandkids are young. I said, yeah, but people's grandkids were young when the Iraq war started. And then it drug into Afghanistan. Then 20 years later, those little tiny babies were old enough to be soldiers dying over there. That's the reason why I worry, so. But I like to know where the money goes to, and where the money goes to. So tell me, if you can, a little bit more about this whole thing with Hunter Biden, how Hunter Biden got his fingers in the biolabs that we think are so bad over there. How did he get his fingers in there other than daddy's inside deals? That's what I want to know.
Well, that's where the contract. So he started a fund, basically a hedge fund, right? It wasn't exactly run like a hedge fund. I don't know. I've seen people call it like a shell corporation. There's basically like a hedge fund.
Mm-hmm.
They took that money with their investors and they went and invested into these companies that were getting the government contracts for these biolabs. It literally said it on their website, the Rosemont Seneca website, when it was up. It talked about their financial partnership with Metabiota and CH2M Hill and Black & Veatch. If you go look at the government contracts for the biolabs, those are the three companies that still operate out of them. So he, as far as how he had his fingers, it was as a financial partnership. He was the one funding it through that fund, the Rosemont Seneca.
Yeah.
Was it like a was it, we're going to make a lot of money on these biolabs? It could have been partly, but I think they were involved in other industries too. Obviously, like energy, because he went on and became part of the board of Burisma. Yeah. And the other thing is too, and off the top of my head, I couldn't really go into the relationship, but I have it written down in research, is his relationship with the Chinese as well is far more provable and in depth than the whole Ukraine situation.
Right. That's what I understood. You could put it on paper a lot more with the Chinese than you could even with the Ukrainians. Mm-hmm. I noticed that some of his friends, some of the people he was in business with, they've sustained charges now. Some of them are looking at federal time and things like that.
Only one that I know of, Devon Archer.
How in the heck did he keep his fingers out? Well, I don't even ask how he kept his fingers out of the chopping off of like Devon Devon Archer did. I ask how that has happened, but I know how it happens. I don't think anything ever happened to him. The laptop from hell seems to keep disappearing and then coming back in and out. It's like the boomerang from hell. It goes out and it comes back in, goes out and comes back again. But
I don't look. Could you imagine if Don Jr. or Eric Trump or Ivanka had as much evidence against him as Hunter Biden did while Trump was in office?
Oh, yeah.
Not even when he was in office. The day he said he was running for president, if they did, right, they all would be in jail.
I told my wife one day, I said, I know without a shadow of a doubt that the Trump children they're very careful at even hailing a cab, because if they hail a cab, they're liable to catch a picture of it and say, look right there, see, look at that. They're hailing, they're a Heil Hitler sign. See that right there? I said, that's the kind of things that the Trump kids have to worry about. But yet you have Biden's kid across the seas committing mass crimes all over the place, and nobody wants to look at it, or they want to pretend like they don't see it. But the Trump kids can't walk sideways. I mean, good Lord, look at that.
Everyone around Hunter Biden has been prosecuted. I believe the guy that owned Burisma was prosecuted. The banks that in Latvia that was shut down for huge money laundering charges that they did business from. And Devon Archer, his business partner, who was the third owner of Rosemont Seneca and served on the board of Burisma with Hunter Biden, got charged with or got convicted of securities fraud and conspiracy. Well, who was he conspiring with?
Yeah,
right. How is the only two people that I really know of in this whole situation, Christopher Hines and Hunter Biden, who have a relationship with a powerful political person, they're the only ones that I know of that haven't been convicted.
I guess it is true. The rich keep getting richer and stay out of trouble, and the poor, well, they just keep getting poorer, and they're the ones that go to prison. So I guess that really is it. Although Devon Archer probably is not, he's not without sin, and he's certainly probably not poor, but he
it's the connected. It's the connected that keep getting out. It's not the rich, because a lot of these people that were put in jail were rich, right? It's the connected.
Right. Well, I definitely believe their connections over there are known. But there's a lot of looking away. Just look over here for a minute. Just look over here. It's a dirty business all the way around with this Ukraine. But I keep trying to tell everybody, and there's so many people listen to the mainstream narrative about it. They just, well, Ukraine, they're trying to fight off the Russians. I say, yeah, but hold on just a minute. Hold on a minute. Now, before you start thinking perfect of them, now you got to start asking yourself questions. And then when you start talking to people about it, they want to get mad first. Then when you start telling them facts and say, these are the facts, then they start looking at things going, you might be right. I say, yeah, nobody's perfect here. There's no good guy, no bad guy. There's just some people that are a little bit worse than others because the Ukrainians are not without sin. Okay. There's a lot of sin that's going on in Ukraine since this whole thing before it ever took place, way back there from the time that they left the Soviet Union, until now. It's been dirty pool the whole way.
I would say the most stable Ukraine has ever been was under the Soviet Union.
Right. And then when people say, well, now hold on a minute. Now you don't tell me those people some of them want to be a part of Russia. I say, yeah, some of them did want to be, like in the Donbass region. You remember now understand the Ukrainian government shelled those people. What do you think they did that for? They wanted to be part of Russia. Okay. But they wanted to stay where they lived. That's why some of these areas were annexed back in to Russia. Yes,
Crimea, 95% of the population in Crimea wanted to go back to Russia. Did you know that our mainstream media calls that an invasion? Putin took Crimea. He invaded Crimea. He didn't invade Crimea. He sent a military presence down there, but they didn't invade anyone. They wanted to be a part of Russia.
Right. I mean, did we invade Puerto Rico? I mean, it's a territory of ours. I mean, did we invade Hawaii? Did we invade Alaska? No, it's one of our states. No, there's a little difference there. But the mainstream media, they have to keep that whole narrative up because that's what their marching orders on. When I tell people all the time that the mainstream media are programmed as they're the third part of the government. You have your judicial, your executive, and your legislative branch, but now you have your propaganda / media branch. And that's their job, is to make most of America dumb down to listen to just what we tell you. Listen, this is where you get your news. You don't have to do research. We're going to give you all the news. And when they're all telling the same story, that's when if I go to 5 different news broadcasts and they all tell me the same thing, I immediately want to say, hold on a minute. I call BS on. Let me go look. But most Americans don't do that. You and I both know that.
Oh, yeah. And it's funny though, and I noticed this the other day. Clinton did it with I can't remember what country it was. Maybe during the Serbia deal. Obama said it. Biden just said it not long ago. But when we choose what side we're going to back, they always say we back the democratically elected leader of blank country, right? Because we want to push democracy. Now, that's not a bad thing. But I will say this. To make it's kind of goes back to the religion thing with me, right? I don't like, I believe a certain way. And I think it's, the proper way, but I'm not going to force my beliefs on anyone else because who's to say that it's right? Who's to say that they're wrong, right? They think they think they're right just as much as I think I'm right. Russia has never had a democratic government ever in their entire history. Never. They didn't even know what democracy was until maybe recently.
No, they had no
You know,
idea.
so to say that we're not going to support them, or we're not going to, support them because they're not a democratic country, that's just not their history. That's just not them.
Correct.
We've supported extremely bad people throughout our history. By the way, people don't know, we had a good relationship with Saddam Hussein before. We've had a good relationship with Hitler at one point.
Yes, we did. He was Time Magazine's Man of the Year, remember?
Yeah. I mean, Henry Ford, Hitler had a life-size poster of Henry Ford in his office. He freaking idolized Henry Ford.
Right.
Henry Ford was making tanks for Hitler. People didn't realize that either before we got into the war. That's why Henry Ford's factories were already set up to start building military vehicles. But we did it. Okay, yeah, he was a democratically elected person, so we back him because of that. But that doesn't mean that they're a good person. That doesn't mean it's the right side. Just to say that we're supporting, the system and not the person, I feel like that can go wrong.
I agree. There's so many things in play right now with this whole Russia-Ukraine. It's not just, as I tell people, it's not just Russia-Ukraine. It's look at the world markets. Look what's happened to the world markets. Just for a small instance, look at the oil market and the gas market. Over the last few, Putin has taken the responsibility now because Biden's trying to throw it on him of the reason why oil is so high. No, hold on a minute. Oil was already quite high and had spiked definitely higher over the time since Trump came out of office to the day that the invasion began on February 24th. It was already high. Yes, it spiked much higher due to this quote unquote invasion or special operation, but it was already way higher than it was when Biden came into office. Matter of fact, it started going up before Biden ever got out of office or got into office. So to blame it all on Putin, that's gibberish. That's mainstream media right there.
They keep saying the Putin prices, right? But I was paying $3.30 a gallon in December. I always go back to 2019 because you can't use 2020 as a measurement because gas prices were so cheap because we were shut down due to COVID, right? No one was going to work, so demand was high. Here's the thing. Demand did not increase for fuel from 2019 to 2021. It just would have gone back to normal.
Yep.
Okay. In fact, less people are probably going to work and driving less than they were in 2019 because of, during 2020, people realized, well, I can do this job from home. All right.
Right.
So how does prices keep going up for oil and they keep freaking telling us, well, that's because more people are driving than ever. No, they're not. All right. They're driving less because during the week when they're going to work, they're not going to work anymore. They're working from the house. A lot of them. But in 2019, I was paying like $2.10, right? So let's say that demand was at a certain amount in 2019. I'm paying $2.10. There's no reason for me to be paying more than that now,
right?
Other than bad policy,
right? I agree with you totally. Well, just like yesterday, I saw it in comparison. I talked about the 5 leading countries of production of wheat. Okay. Well, out of the 5 countries, you have the United States, you have Russia, Ukraine, France, and Canada. Well, you take Ukraine is in a war, so they're not going to plant like they usually would. Russia, they're involved in a war, so of course they're not going to plant like they were because let's face it, when you're in a war, you're not doing anything like you normally would. The United States right now has a huge problem because of the fertilizer, the lack of fertilizer, and the lack of the components for fertilizer. So which
comes out of Russia, by the way.
Right, absolutely, and it's going to yield. It's going to be much off. Then you have Canada. Canada's had some of the most totalitarian lockdowns because of COVID that there were anywhere in the world, and on top of it, they're going to suffer the same problems we are with fertilizer. So that leaves lowly little old France over here that might be at their normal production. So of course, you know what happens when the first world gets a cold, the third world dies. You know what I mean? Someone's going to have to give up eating, and you know where it's going to end up at.
Yeah.
So there's millions of people are going to die behind this war that aren't going to die behind a bullet.
Yeah. And, for Biden to get up there the other day and start saying that food shortages are coming, and Jester knows how I feel about this. All right. And I don't know, Jester, I'm sorry if this is supposed to be a more formal show, but there's no fucking reason, none, that the United States should ever have a shortage of food at all.
Right.
at all. We can feed ourselves. We can feed the whole fucking world if we wanted to.
We're feeding
But-
China and Russia and everybody else too.
Yes.
Yeah.
There is I want all of the listeners to hear there's no reason for the United States to have a shortage of food other than bad political policy. That is
I
it.
agree with you. I agree with you.
All
I
right.
live in one of the best producing states as far in the country's per capita size, and we produce soybeans and rice and wheat and corn and everything else, Michael. I mean, just tons of it. And every year, what happens here in the state of Arkansas, we send representatives to foreign countries to sell them grain. Okay, we have it's widely known that we send representatives to China and to Russia and to hear their yonder and with future commodity sales. So we make enough for us to definitely eat, and then for a lot of other people to eat. But we have to look at. Hold on a minute. We might not be able to feed the world. We need to feed us. Okay, you're right. Bad policy is what causes anybody to starve in this country. Nobody should ever starve or go hungry here in the United States of America ever.
Yep. There should not be any shortage of food when you go around and you see shelves empty for whatever thing, right? It doesn't matter what it is, unless it's a foreign import, like some Chinese food in the international section of Kroger or something.
Right.
All right. Your basic stuff, we should not have a food shortage at all of anything. Like, I can't believe we have they keep talking about beef, right? Like, oh, people don't want to work at the beef,
slaughterhouses.
Slaughterhouses.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, wait, so the same people that are working at the slaughterhouses throughout all of COVID with no vaccine all of a sudden don't want to work because of they want to risk getting sick. Get out of here.
Yeah, you're right.
Right. There's something going on other than that we've either incentivized them not to work, or we've put policy in place that's not allowing them to do the full potential of that job. But we don't have less cows. We don't have less chickens. We don't have less anything.
No.
We may have may have made it expensive for them, to go out and do operations. But again, that goes back to bad political policy.
And animal feeds are going to absolutely go through the roof because of this too, because it's not specifically that we don't have what it takes to make the feeds with. It's going to be there. But here's the thing. When there's a reduction in the yield, the price is going to go up. So we know that's going to happen. So that, of course, that's going to drive the market higher, because whether you're getting more for your cattle or not makes no difference. It's what the packing houses and those companies that do the processing of the meat, what they want to charge, no matter what they're paying the farmer for the beef itself, for the cow itself, it's what they want to charge. They can inflate the prices. Now, there's going to be price gouging. Frankly, I'm surprised it's not happening already, but there's definitely going to be price gouging in this new economy that's coming on now.
Absolutely. And don't think it won't be. Look, oil's probably already being gouged. I saw something the other day, and we'll see if this plays out, but our Democratic political leaders are wanting to put out stimulus checks to help cover the cost of gas.
Yep.
That's going to cause more inflation, but why? Why are we here, right? Why have we gotten to the point where now they want to keep giving out money? And it just doesn't look good when it comes from the side that is all about giving out money. And they're finding ways to give out money.
I always equivocate the United States with its money and how they spend it is like a drunk college kid with a unlimited amount of money on a credit card. Okay. I'm supposed to have fun. Okay. I'm going to keep spending. I've got a card. I'm going to keep spending. I got checks. I must still have money. That's the way the government runs anymore. That if we don't have enough money, we'll print some more. I will print some more. I will spend some more. We're spending money that my great grandkids will be paying back. It's sad, but it's true. That's just the way government is anymore. No such thing as a balanced budget. Okay.
Nope, absolutely not.
Jester, we ain't heard from you in a while. Are you still alive back there?
Yeah, you guys were just on a roll, so I was just over here muted, just listening in. But I do want to throw something out there: how Biden's putting the blame on Russia for these potential food shortages. To me, I kind of think it's not that there's shortages. It's not because of anything that's going on in Russia, Ukraine. I think it's because we're having trouble finding people to work. I think that's the big thing. If you don't have the manpower, you can't produce, and I think that's the big problem. I know every business in my town is understaffed. Every single one. McDonald's has closed their lobby because they don't have enough people to work. Like a lot of the fast food places around where I'm at are all drive-through only because they can't get anybody in there, right?
Yep.
Banks are shutting down because they are not able to get staff in there, so they claim. That's what they've been claiming. And a lot of other like retail businesses in the area, it's like employees are scarce.
I agree.
And what I've noticed about Walmart is the turnover rate there has been extremely high lately. There's not a lot of cashiers there, but they keep bringing in like these new kids to come stock stuff at nighttime to stock the shelves, and then they're gone in like a week. I don't see the same kids there anymore.
All right.
So I think that's what it is. They know that it's a failing economy. They know that their people aren't wanting to work. And there's how Michael said about incentives. There's got to be something somewhere out there that's keeping people from working. And I'm not exactly sure what it is, but I really think all this Russia stuff, they're putting this out there as the blame just to cover, the lack of people that are working right now. And I just read a poll about Biden, the approval rating on the job aspect, like the employment aspect. And it's 60% of Americans don't approve of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he only has like a 40% approval rating with that right now, which if over half the country is telling you, hey, something's really wrong with employment right now, I mean, that means that over half the people in this country are feeling the effects.
Yeah. But employment keeps going down. Or
That's
it keeps going up. Like unemployment rates keep going down.
A lot of companies found out during the pandemic, because I don't call it a pandemic, the pandemic, that they could make money and continue to run their operations with less manpower and without having to do certain things like opening the lobby, because frankly, they have to have a lot of staff to open the lobby, to clean tables, to do this. Run the drive-through, you're making most the same amount of money, because most people, if they know the lobby's closed, they still want to eat, so they'll go through. They'll keep like 85% of their business. But I found this not too long ago to be really strange. I went to Murphy USA. Murphy USA, they're attached to most all Walmarts around. They sell a lot of fuel. Usually fuel is cheaper, so I go there. Anyway, Murphy USA had a sign up said after 5 o'clock p.m. we will be closed due to staffing. So I asked the manager, I said, hey, what's up with that? He said, honest to God, Al, he said, I work all my people as many hours as I can without corporate complaining about how many hours they get. He said, but when 5 o'clock rolls around, I've worked everybody that I have that they'll let me have. And at 5 o'clock, I have to close because I have nobody to stay open late in the close.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, is that because they reduced your number? And he just kind of wouldn't answer my question. I said, I bet they reduced your number. How many employees you had? He said, I don't have enough staff, Al.
Yeah.
So I took that as, yeah, I was right. I hit it on the target. They took this staffing from 8 to 5 or 6 or whatever it might be. And there's nobody to work at nights.
Mm-hmm.
So
I want to throw something out there, Michael, real quick. How you mentioned earlier, you can't really count like the fuel prices or anything because of COVID. People weren't driving this, that, the other. So that's kind of what I've been doing as well, as I'm taking 2020 out of the equation for a lot of things. So just going back to 2019 to today, we have a higher unemployment rate than we did then, right? And I think that
it's lower unemployment.
No, it's higher. The
It's
unemployment rate
3.8%, I think, which was about where it was, or if not a little bit of a tick lower.
We have more unemployed people today than we did in 2019.
So when they count unemployment, it's tough because unemployment means that they have to be seeking a job. Now, there are a lot more people that are not working, yes, but they're not seeking a job. Therefore, they're not in the employment category, the unemployed category. Because unemployment rates, I believe, let's see, it just came out. Let's see what it is.
Because I know I know a lot of that they base off of people that are getting unemployment, like people.
Yeah, but to get unemployment, you had to be seeking a job. So right now it's at 3.8%. In February 2020, it was at 3.5%. That's the lowest it's been.
Yeah, but you can't base it off 2020.
No. So 2020 before the pandemic. Okay, before that hit, it was at 3.5%. Then when it hit, it skyrocketed to like 14.7%. And I believe it is higher than that. I believe it's at like 25%. But to be considered unemployed, you have to be seeking a job. You have to actually want to work. So if you're not wanting to work and you can't receive unemployment benefits, and then you also are not counted in the unemployment number. So what you got to look at is you have to go look at the total labor force numbers and how many people are looking for employment, how many people are employed, right? Those are what you have to look at, because if someone is not seeking a job, then they don't count them in that number. That's why I'm saying that.
Listen, that's like a very inaccurate thing, though, because I could be looking for a job right now and there's nobody that's going to know about it. How are they tallying these people up?
That's, I mean, that's a good point, right? But a lot of people
you have a small business, right? If I called you and I said, "Hey, Michael, I'm looking for some side work. You got anything for me?"
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to report to the government that Jester came over and was looking for a job. And a lot of the things we're seeing right now, and this is something to take into consideration. A lot of people are working under the table now.
Oh, yes.
A lot of people, there's a lot of illegals that are coming in and working jobs under the table, right? That aren't on the books at all. But I don't care what we're reading online. You could feel the effects of this. You could see this in stores. You could see this within restaurants. You could see this within businesses. My area is very, very bad. Every single restaurant in the area is understaffed. Every single retail store is understaffed. The only stores that I'm seeing that are doing good, that really aren't having too bad of issues, are your small mom and pop places. Those are about the only ones that I'm seeing that aren't, where it's like, family ran, there's only like a handful of employees. Those are the only ones that I'm seeing that aren't feeling the effects of this.
Yeah, no, I get it, but I'm just telling you how they calculate it. They have a way to go around and find out, and you're right. A lot of people are working under the table. A lot of people are working for cash, which is also probably why they want to go and, digitalize our currency. So you don't have a way to avoid taxes and work for cash.
Right. It's that voodoo numbers that they come up with in Washington. They have a math or a formula for how they do this or how they do that, but it's always voodoo numbers. They can call it whatever number they want to you, because most of America is not listening. Only people like us are listening, but they change those numbers up the way they calculate things all the time, and they don't tell anybody of it. They just do it. But it's definitely a cash society now. Everybody wants to be paid in cash, and they're trying to lock that down with electronic currency. Unfortunately, electronic currency is never going to work because, frankly, people are not going to allow it to work. There's going to be other things that are going to be traded. They can have all the electronic currency they want in the world, but that's never going to work, because I think that's going to be the final straw to this quote unquote democracy / republic that we have, because people are just not going to go for that. That's going to be like taking guns from people right there. I'm sorry, but when people find out that money in their hand is not worth anything and they have to report every single thing, people are going to lose their mind.
Yeah. And Jester, just to go back, they only take into consideration people who have applied for unemployed benefits.
Yeah, that would make sense, because that would give them a number to go off of.
Yeah.
The point I was trying to make with this is that with Biden coming out and saying that there's going to be shortages felt all around the world, food shortages, I don't believe for a second that that's accurate, right? Somebody is telling him to say that. He was advised to say that. He was advised to blame that on the sanctions on Russia. And the question is why? And the only thing I could think is that they don't have the manpower to meet demand. Like, that's period. That's what it is. So he's got to find a scapegoat to blame it on.
That, and I think that not the sanctions, but because we know, I think that gas prices are going to get so out of hand that's increasing the bottom line for a lot of these companies that are distributing the food and the people growing it, right? Because oil is everything. And I mean, it's already doubled. The cost of gas has more than doubled. Oh,
I agree.
Sorry, my headphones came out. But
I agree.
You have to think about. Hold on. All right. So you have to think about. They know this, but they need to blame it on something. I've said this plenty of times. They're sitting back and they're saying, if this war doesn't happen, this is before the invasion. If this war doesn't happen, great. But if it does happen, how can we use it to our advantage? And that's what they're doing. And they know that higher gas prices could mean a shortage of food. Higher fertilizer prices could mean a shortage of food, just because the farmers in the short run, this isn't a long-term deal, but in the short run, you have to eat that high expense. And they need a way to justify that. That's not, showing that they're at fault. So they're going to blame Putin. Don't think for a second. You're very naive if you think that our government is just, all good people and they would never want a war to happen. They would never push a war to happen. No, our government, as much as I love the United States of America, okay, we have elected people that have been in Congress for 40 years. That is their freaking job, their career, which it was never supposed to be. And they want to remain in power. All right. And they need control, but they are also going to push things, as we have laid out in the last 2 episodes, that are going to benefit them. And they're going to blame things that benefit them. If you think that they didn't fuel this war, you need to go back since the collapse of the Soviet Union, who many of the people that are in Congress right now were still in Congress at that point 20-something years ago, 30 years ago. All right. And look at all the legislation and the way that we've treated Russia. All right. And the way that we treated Ukraine. And it's extremely easy. It's so blatantly obvious that we have fueled this conflict, and we've done it for political purposes.
So they definitely wanted this conflict. They wanted this conflict for years. They really did.
I want to throw one more thing out there about the shortage thing, and I want to get your thoughts on it, guys. So we all know about, the trucker convoy, this, that, the other. Some people are really fuzzy about what's going on with that, but I would just have to go out there and assume if you have a lot of truckers out there that aren't running goods, that are protesting, that's obviously going to create shortages as well. Right? So do you think this could also be part of why Biden is saying this? Because they know that could potentially get worse. So they're looking, hey, let's blame this on Russia.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, there's so many different factors that could play into this. There's so many different reasons they would want this to happen, right? Either as long as, look, they don't care. They're going to find out the more reasons for the potential of these shortages to occur that doesn't involve them, the better, right? The more places they have to put blame on that isn't directly correlated to stuff that they've done, that's what they're going to push. Yeah, don't you think it's odd when CNN and Fox agree on the same conflict? The two most divisive mainstream media sources, right? I mean, is it not odd when they agree on something so large like this?
Yeah, they have to have a scapegoat. They're creating their own boogeyman right now. They need a boogeyman.
Yep.
And Putin's their boogeyman right now, but if something happens that falls through with him, they want to be blaming on somebody else. They will never take blame for anything. It's not their fault, they'll say.
Yep. Have you ever seen a president take a blame for anything and say, I was wrong?
Nope.
Have you ever seen a politician say that?
Nope. The closest one I ever saw was Nixon. He said it wasn't him for the longest time until he couldn't deny it.
Yeah. Hell, I don't even think Clinton ended up coming out and saying he was wrong for screwing what's her name?
Yeah.
Monica.
Right?
Yeah.
Monica.
Yeah.
Monica.
They will never ever admit fault. Ever.
No.
And that's wrong. That's bullshit.
No.
Well, they don't do that because it reflects on their party. So they know if they come out and say, hey, I was wrong, it's a bad reflection to their entire political party.
Well, screw their party.
Well, they need the parties for the division in this country. Like, that's what they need it for.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, they need the parties for the money, not the division, right?
Well,
that's where they look at it for.
The division creates issues, which allows them to sway certain things in order to make the money.
Mm-hmm.
To get life the way they want it.
Hey preppers, do you want 10% off survival food? Go to www.readywise.com and use code DOOM10 at checkout for 10% off all your survival food needs. Again, that's code DOOM10 at checkout at ReadyWise.com. DOOM10 for 10% off at ReadyWise.com.
I mean,
I don't know. But to go back into this
go ahead.
this Russia-Ukraine thing, with this Biden bullshit. So I did some reading up on this, and I found out that he was, basically paving the way for this contractor to go in there and do all these things. Now, the weird stuff I've been reading lately kind of paints Putin as not being such a bad guy over this, and he, this is one of his main objectives for being there. Your guys' thoughts on that?
Say that again. Ask that again. That.
Damn it, Michael.
Sorry.
So the stuff I've been reading lately about how Hunter Biden, now that the emails are coming out from the laptop, says that he was paving the way for the contractors to go over there and helped with the funding for the biolabs and all this crazy shit. And, some things I've been reading suggest that the main reason Putin is over there trying to get this shut down is because these biolabs are so dangerous. And they're trying to paint Putin as like a hero in this, and they're trying to label this kind of like a Q theory. Right. So what's your thoughts on that, guys?
Yeah. So I found that contract. Look, for all you viewing, go on sam.gov, sam.gov. Okay. Make a profile like I did. Now it's a little bit of an extended thing, but you can still make one in a night. And you can go search all of the government contracts that we put out. Doesn't matter if it's for war, doesn't matter if it's for the biolabs, all of them. And you can go back in history and look at all the ones we put out too. We put one out for one of the biolabs in Ukraine. Okay, that CH2M Hill was currently doing research in. And it was for $3.6 million, I believe. They wanted someone to go and basically clean up these labs because there are two labs that we were worried, this back July 28th, 2021. We were worried that the Ukrainian government was going to start operating out of these biolabs before they were permitted to be operational because the labs didn't abide by the international standards. These labs had licenses to work with the most dangerous pathogens. If you think that Russia doesn't know every little thing going on in our government, all the way they have someone that's looking at government contracts because they probably apply for some of the contracts to do business with us. If you think that they weren't aware, and in this contract, openly, look, I'm just some little person out of my house that is doing this research, and I was able to find it. And in that contract, it says there is a substantial risk that the Ukrainian government is going to start operating out of this lab that is can work with the highest pathogens, and we need people to go over there and make sure it's okay. And if you don't think that Russia's looking at that like, okay, we just had this whole pandemic, that Russia is currently experiencing like 70,000 new COVID cases a day still, and now we have these labs right on our border that we created when we were the Soviet Union that is now in the hands with several pieces of legislation permitting the United States and Ukraine to have a partnership working in these labs. Because you understand, Russia invaded Georgia for the same shit. I think it could play in. I think it could play into that. Yeah. Is it the sole reason why they went and invaded Ukraine? No. The NATO thing is the sole main driver. No matter what Putin says, no matter what Biden says, okay, the fact that Ukraine was going to join NATO or trying to, Russia did not want that. Just like we didn't want Russia bringing nuclear warheads over to Cuba. So what Kennedy do? He put up a blockade and said that if Khrushchev didn't turn the ships around, he was going to blow up the ships and sink them. And if it started World War III, then so be it. He didn't care. He was not going to have weapons on the coast of the United States. So, and Putin, if you go back and actually listen to Putin's interviews, and people need to stop being so one-sided. Go listen to Putin talk. He's a very smart person. He elaborates on everything. He elaborates like no president in our history has ever done when he answers questions. It's pretty impressive, actually. Go back all the way to 2000, and he has stated concerns about NATO expanding eastwards and the threat that it poses to Russia. He's no different in looking out for Russia than hopefully our presidents are in looking out for us and our national security. And that's the main reason behind this. It's as simple as that.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I agree with you. Must admit.
So that's been what I've been getting at with a lot of people lately. Is like we're not getting the full story of what's going on. Things seem to be a lot different. We're totally demonizing Putin, but there's got to be more here than what meets the eye. And after Michael saying what you just said, that makes a lot of sense. You know, Putin's trying to protect his own just like we would try to do here.
Yeah.
I get it. I totally get it.
But we're not
And
going to
again-
demonize ourselves, Jester. There's no
Yeah.
way we'll ever demonize ourselves. We'll never make ourselves look bad. So
Right,
we have to have a
exactly.
boogeyman.
Where Putin
Yeah.
has gone wrong is the invasion. Should he have invaded? I don't think so. I think he could have used the invasion as leverage, the potential of an invasion. Because think about this. The only time we started talking to him really and being serious, or hopefully we were serious about relations between us and getting things done was leading up into the invasion. Putin was on the phone with NATO leaders, including our own president and Zelensky, every single day. Okay, when they thought he was going to invade. And now he kind of crushed that. I think maybe he pushed it too far and he could have kept using it as leverage, but he may have thought, it's not working. I'm not getting what I want.
Yep. He could have used this. He could have used this as leverage, and he gave up his leverage when he decided to attack.
Yeah, and so I think that it may have been the wrong decision, and I think he's wrong for doing this, and I think he stepped into something he didn't expect. I don't think he expected the Ukrainian people to be like this at all. I mean, the Kremlin even came out and reported over 10,000 Russian soldiers were killed. That's not casualties, that's killed, and over 40,000 casualties or MIA. So he's got a serious situation on his hands that could really ultimately come back and be the end of his political reign.
Yeah, he's got bad press in the homeland right now. Bad press.
So, should he be demonized for that? Yeah. As far as where he's at, from the invasion on, just because it wasn't a good decision, it's cost a lot of people their lives on both sides. But we're also not in the Kremlin with them. We don't know 100%. We know that our government has had, a spotty record on telling us what the real situation is. But leading up into this and his reasons behind invading were very legitimate, and he shouldn't be demonized for that. If we're going to demonize someone for worrying about their national security when we do the exact same thing, and I hope that we are worrying about our national security, then why are we going to fault him? Now, faulting him for actually going and invading and killing all these people is a different thing, but the reasons behind it, you cannot fault him for.
Now, do we know if Putin has taken control of any of these biolabs yet?
Oh, I believe so, yeah. I believe he's done several of them, if not all of them.
Okay, now, is anything coming out in the mainstream media about what he's doing with these labs? Is he getting them, destroying them, shutting them down? Like, what's he doing with them?
I'm not sure. I haven't looked into it. We could probably look it up, but
because that's going to be that there, I think, would be an eye opener for a lot of Americans and people around the world. Like, if he gets his hands on these biolabs and he shuts them down, destroys them, and then comes out and says, "This is why we're here."
I believe he's destroyed them, and he's got a lot of the evidence that really links a lot of it back to us in the Western world of what we've been doing. I believe I've heard a lot of chatter of that he's got the goods on us. I mean, he's called us out for what we were doing over there. So yeah, I believe he's destroyed them, and he's got a lot of the evidence, Jester. Frankly, that's just my assumption for when I read in a lot of news, non-mainstream media sources, but I believe he has a lot of the goods on.
And the big thing is, if he's over there solely for the now, it's really hard for Americans to deny this at this point. Like I said, the mainstream media has been trying to paint this as a QAnon theory, that these labs didn't even exist, that this was all a made-up thing, and they tried to, put a tinfoil hat on everybody that said this. But now so much information is coming out about it, they can't deny it anymore.
They still deny it.
They can't do it.
I just looked up on because I just looked up on Google trying to figure out that answer about, has Putin secured any of them? And every article that comes up on Google on the first page are all fact checkers from USA Today and all that stuff, and they all claim that it's a false claim, and it's not. It's funny. Why is it false? And this is what aggravates me more than anything. The government is saying they've done it. They're saying they've done it through legislation. They're saying they do it through current contracts they put out leading up into this. and it's false, well then what the fuck is real in this life, right?
I agree.
So
on that
that's what's frustrating about this. I mean, if I think we would all agree that whether or not it's actually legitimate and they do lie and skew statistics on government website, it's still probably and hopefully the most reliable source of information, because this is the place that everyone's getting their info from, right? All the news people and everything.
We're going to make a conspiracy theorist out of you yet, Michael.
Yeah.
Well, this isn't conspiracy, though. This is actual legitimate documentation.
They're claiming
There's a
it's
difference.
Conspiracy, though. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So I want everybody to kind of, open your ears and listen to what I'm about to say for 1 second. Things that are true, that we know to be true, they paint as conspiracy in the media to make us look like morons, to cover this shit up and bury it. Right? That's what they do. And I just want to let you guys know we're about at our time limit. You could find me on TikTok at It's Doomsday Podcast 2.0. You could find Al on TikTok at big_daddy_prep. And you could find Michael Kee on TikTok at RC_talk. And then Michael's podcast is the Real Conservative Talk Podcast. Make sure you check him out. Our email is itsdoomsdaypodcast@gmail.com. And, guys, final thoughts on this stuff before we get out of here.
I'm going to say my final thought is research. Always do your research. Don't believe what somebody tells you. Don't even believe what we tell you. Do your own research, because you'll figure out that what you're being fed is not.
Hey preppers, do you want 10% off survival food? Go to www.readywise.com and use code DOOM10
and as far as the
at
research,
checkout
don't
for
research
10% off all your
articles on-
survival food needs.
Unless I'm the one that wrote
Again,
the
that's
article.
code DOOM10 at checkout at readywise.com.
Just go literally look, sam.gov,
DOOM10 for 10% off at readywise.com.
Congress.gov, where you can find all the legislation. All right. Go straight to the government websites. They have the documents out there. All right. There's receipts that show that the Department of Defense funded all these. Literally on the government websites. Go there and do your research and get it from there, because you'll be way more confident about what your opinion is on this. And don't get it from CNN or Fox News, because it's all available right on Google at the click of a button.
Right.
Very good information, guys. And this is going to wrap up part 3 of the Russian-Ukraine conflict history. This is going to wrap it up. I'm sure we'll be talking more about the Russia-Ukraine thing as things unfold, but I think in the 3-part series that we did on this, I think it really opened a lot of people's eyes, and it's really changing their mindset. And I really hope this is making people seek out some alternative news sources.
Me too.
This is an emergency action message. At approximately 1 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, NORAD is tracking 15 ICBM nuclear missiles inbound to the following cities: Orlando, Miami, Pittsburgh, Dover, Newark, Richland, Philadelphia, New York City, Baltimore, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Boston, Seattle, Detroit. This is an extremely deadly situation. Stay tuned. The next emergency message will be a presidential address.